3, 2, 1. Fragments of silicon. Now with more fragments, but still the same amount of silicon.
Right, welcome to another installment of Fragments of Silicon. Apologies for starting a bit late. Sometimes we have technical problems before things start.
Not my fault this time. Woo!
Yeah. I'm like, sometimes it's just the fault of Skype, because Skype. You know, I know a lot of people abandon Skype for, say, Discord or Slack. There are way too many people in the game industry who haven't, so with Skype we are stuck with.
Also, you have this continual issue with getting Discord's audio to work properly.
That too, but I'm just saying, just in general, there's really not a good replacement for Skype.
Mm-hmm.
You know, wish there was, so we wouldn't have to rely on the dark voodoo magics. But
I know many people who would echo that sentiment.
No doubt. I'm like, anyway, I'm your host, Adam. Joining me are the regular crew, Ogre.
Meh.
Galix.
Hello.
Eddie Fan.
Yay!
And Twilight.
Hello.
All right, spin the wheel, make the deal. Let's say Petty Fang goes.
Oh, let's see. Well, Monday we finally cleared O4S. We've killed
Yay.
Neo X Death. Hooray!
Wait, what's the O?
Omega. So yeah, that's been fun.
Wait, so when do you fight Omega?
12th
6 months from now.
Yeah.
So O12 would be Omega?
Yes.
Yep.
Well, probably Omega Prime, but
Okay.
it's a weird.
I'm still trying to. I still don't have a very good mental image of how dungeons work in Final Fantasy XIV.
Instant raids and stuff like that.
Yeah. It's basically just big boss fights. There's no real dungeon involved.
Well, not till Phantom Train.
Yeah, and that depends how that works.
Down too much on that.
So yeah, that's been fun. We went from Thursday having wiped out at, what was it, 210 HP?
Mm-hmm.
And then we killed it on Monday, a week before the new update comes out. So that's been fun. I sent back Horizon Zero Dawn, and I got Neo, so that's going to be interesting.
I have not heard of that game.
It's basically Dark Souls in Japan.
Yeah, it's that. It's
okay,
spelled. Yeah, it's Nioh.
Yeah, I was mentally reading it as, the guy from the Matrix.
Yeah.
Well, considering there's a lot of Neo talk going around here all of a sudden.
Are they porting it to something new, or?
No, I have it on PS4.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just rented it from GameFly, so gonna see if I like that, because the problem I had with Dark Souls, it was just
nowhere near enough samurai. No, I'm kidding.
Well, not as much of that as there just wasn't a whole lot to do. It felt kind of slow and boring to me, but the combat in Neo was a lot faster. So it'll be interesting to see, how far I get with that. And then, aside from that, not a whole lot. I guess next victim.
Right, Ogre, so we can get the Final Fantasy XIV stuff out of the way.
Well, yes, as you heard there, we finally beat Neo X Death on Monday, which was an impromptu thing that I just said, why don't we just do it Monday? and we did it Monday. And my God, last second.
3 seconds left. If someone missed an attack, we were screwed.
Mm.
And the nerd
And
scream
now
that
it's-
came after it was so pure.
And now we're just farming the bitch, so insult to injury there, finally.
Gotta get that.
let's-
Gotta get them boss weapons.
Oh yeah, we still got to get our paladin ones. Let's see. Recordings are going fine. We finished up that Gaiopolis last week. It was like 4 episodes, so
Yeah, that's an arcade game, I think, so
Yeah.
it's not super long.
yeah, it was something Naka wanted to do, and I just figured, we gotta do it. We gotta do something, and he seems so interested in this, and we had fun with it, so
I'm still not entirely sure where he found it, but
I don't ask where he finds the logic of these things at.
no,
Some-
I never heard of that. So
Well, isn't that
Yeah.
kind of Naka's thing, playing games he's never heard of?
Pretty much.
I guess.
But so we started a new one, which should start next week, which should be a nice little surprise for everyone. Let's see, what else happened. If you can tell any difference between the way I'm talking, I just got my new mic, my new headset and mic.
So no more blood
Lit-
sacrifices before you have to start a show.
The thing is I guess the way you said it, and it's
Hello?
Well,
You guys didn't jinx it, do you?
I'm like,
Ogre, you might have to go back to the blood sacrifices there, bro.
I'm like, wow. Oh,
Having a functioning microphone is no excuse for stopping the sacrifices.
instant karma got him.
Hit him with a fucking shovel upside the teeth.
Oh, came in here bragging about his fancy new microphone.
Drop.
Oh,
Well, Ogre gets that situation situated. On to the next person. Galix.
Well, I was stopping on the way home to get a couple grocery things, and I saw a box of the Mario cereal, so I picked that up. So now gonna have that amiibo, as long as I can stand keeping a full-size cardboard box around.
Well, theoretically, you can just cut the amiibo part off.
I know, but it's not quite the same. I actually saw a fun thing on. I was looking around to see if I could find it online. I saw some people selling, like literally, like a miniaturized printout of the exact box that has the amiibo thing in it.
Yeah.
Although apparently this amiibo does nothing particular. It just functions as a generic amiibo, except for
back.
the Mario Odyssey. If you boop it, it says that it's a
Galix.
delicious.
Hang on. Ogre, you there?
I'm back.
Okay.
Yeah, see, that's the other thing is that I got a new headset, but I also ordered a new Wi-Fi card.
oh.
So
That one hasn't got here yet.
no, it should be here like probably Friday or something like that at the earliest.
Okay.
But let's see. Yeah, just that. That's kind of about it. I just had a weird jerry rig situation over here, but
Right.
it's all working fine now.
Right. Back over to
Hopefully,
you.
Wi-Fi card.
Yeah. Back over to you, Galix.
Well, like I said, I have Mario cereal. I have not tried it yet. I expect it to taste, vaguely Lucky Charms-ish.
I've actually tried it. It is really good.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
It looks like you're going to be eating some kind of like corn thing, like almost Cheerios esque, but it'll taste like Fruit Loops.
Yeah, it did
So-
say. I noticed that it said fruit flavored cereal or berry flavored cereal or something.
Yeah.
Just
So-
as long as you don't wait 20 years to eat it.
Yes.
I honestly made the joke that I was going to get 30 boxes, save 10 of them, and then 20 years from now ship 5 of them over to Brad if he's still alive.
Yeah.
He probably won't
Yeah.
be.
I'm not an eating old novelty food streamer, so I don't think I have to worry about that.
He's looking for the Nintendo cereal system, by the way.
I wish we had the Nintendo cereal system still.
Just
I always
come up
found
to
it-
his house and be like, "All right, boy, it's time."
Yeah, I always found I had that back in the day, and it's like it was
I
kind of an
remember
awkward
having that.
cereal.
Oh, it's like 2 bags in one box, and
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was like the show. It was, hey, here have Zelda and also Mario, except it's not like 5 parts Mario to 1 part Zelda. Yeah. Other than that, I don't have too much interesting going on in the realm of video gaming. I'm actually was before the show started. I was playing a little bit of the one of the games we're reviewing this week that we picked up because one of our games got delayed, and I will be playing some of the one that we're talking about in our interview today a little bit later.
Yeah. Word of advice: if you've got the patch in, don't play that with other people around.
I never do.
Yeah, just gonna give you a heads up there.
I mean, maybe you just need different friends, right? Who appreciate your very sophisticated and mature hobbies.
My
Sure,
brother-
we'll go with that. Well, I do have one friend whose license plate is LV Hentai, so or LVHNTAI, so.
that is a friend I'd drop sometime soon, to be perfectly honest.
I was gonna say you gotta call him over and be like, "Yo, dude, check this out."
Yeah, I assume it's mostly a joke, but
Anything else?
not really.
Then Twilight, you're up.
Well, I think it was Monday evening. We got a Amazon package that was sent to us by my cousin in Seattle. That when we opened it up, we were thinking at first it was some gift from my mother, since he has a habit of sending her gifts every now and then. And turns out it had snake shield in it, snake repellent, which reminded us of an incident that happened several months ago where a copperhead got in our house.
Yeah, that's
Yeah. Funny thing is, he wasn't aware of this incident since we didn't tell him about it, since he's deathly afraid of snakes and he wouldn't come around if we told him about
Yeah.
it. Yeah, she apparently kind of alluded to it or something like that a few nights ago about snakes getting in our house, possibly, which one did. Well, that was hilarious and strange. And then Saturday and last night, me and some friends of mine finally got around to playing that homebrewed D&D game, and it's been going well so far. We just had to get our schedules better aligned since we had a few delays. And then haven't really been playing much games besides the visual novel, and that's about it.
All right. I guess it's my go then. Let me see. Mostly a quiet week this week, except having to deal with student loans for various reasons. It's getting taken care of. And
Always
that's all.
fun.
Well, it's like they got the paperwork. They're just working through it. So, we'll see how that goes. Outside of that, it's gotten cold again, or rather, it keeps oscillating between warm and cold.
yeah, it's been doing that here too, and there's been some nasty ice because of it.
I don't doubt it. It's like today, it was return of the Arctic chill after 2 days of, relative sunshine and happiness. Rain is excluded, of course. This is how people get sick.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I think that's about it for the news. So, merrily we shall roll along to the interview portion of the broadcast. And joining us this week is Zack Rushton of Cherry Kiss Games.
Hello, hello.
Hello. You might note his voice has been commentating through the news segment. Anyway, right. So, how are you doing tonight?
Well, I was just listening to you guys talking about the cold, and yeah, it's been cold here. I think we had a warm day on Monday, and then we're back to the freezing winds of Toronto, Canada.
Ah, like I don't think even Galax here could top Canada. He lives in Maine. So. Anyway, so we'd like to get started by getting to know the person behind the project, and we start by asking them how did they get interested into video games, both professionally and as a hobby. Although I suppose in this case it goes double for the visual novel fork.
All right, so I must have been in like when I was 5 or 6 years old. Like my mom was like, if you want to buy one of those Game Boy Nintendo things, you got to be able to make your own money and get it. So, I was a 5-year-old, and so I think she hooked me up with like one of those weird like little. I don't want to say child modeling, but like there is a photo of me dressed up as Woody from Toy Story somewhere on the internet, I assume.
And now it's going to be used as blackmail at some point.
Not
Yeah,
child
what are you gonna do?
modeling in the sense of like beauty pageants or anything, but like for
Oh,
like
God, no.
just general
I wouldn't be winning any of this.
photography.
Yeah, and then I bought what's it called? One of those like see-through Game Boy Colors and Pokemon Yellow, and I was hooked ever since. And I guess professionally, it was growing up back in Hong Kong. A lot of my friends got kind of like pressured by their parents to like, it's like, oh, you need to become a doctor or a lawyer or this and that and whatever. And I wasn't really into all that. And so of course, like, you hang around with them long enough, and it's just kind of like this dread sets in over all your friends. It's like, man, I really want to do something I enjoy. So I shipped off to college to study game design. And then, did that for 4 years, flew around a bit, and then moved to Canada, I think, last year. Oh, no, it was 2015, September. I moved up to Canada and started working.
Is that when you joined Cherry Kiss here?
Yes, sir, it was.
Right, and I suppose, and once again, the question that beckons is, what got you connected to the visual novel company here?
So, before Cherry Kiss, I think I'd played like two visual novels, and so I played Fate Stay Night, which one of my friends in college was like, "You gotta check this out." So I was like, "Okay." And
It's kind of one of the big gateway visual novels.
I would say that's like the staple, as it were.
One of them.
And then of course, like I told my buddy, like one of my best friends from back home, like, oh, I played this Fate Stay Night thing, and boy howdy, it was a good old time. And so immediately the second one he got me to play was Monster Girl Quest, and I'm just like, this is just sex. This isn't the same thing at all. oh my. And so I always like to joke now that like, I lived in Hong Kong next to Japan. I flew all the way to Canada, and here I am making localizing Japanese visual novels.
It's a strange arc, no doubt.
Oh yeah, but how I got into it is I remember, so I met the founder at it was like just a networking event, and we just kind of got to talking where it's like, oh, like you were born in Hong Kong, and I'm like, yep, and he's like, oh, I'm also a white guy who lived in Asia for a very long time, so we bonded over that, and then it was just kind of like, do you want to work for me? And I'm just like, yes, please, I would love that.
Like, small world.
Exactly.
Right. So, what exactly is your position at Cherry Kiss?
So it's a bit of it's not that tricky really. It's like I would say it's like product manager, where it's like so I'm the one that actually works in the engine, like getting the Japanese like scenario files and stuff like that, and getting them into what we use to publish them for PC and Android and stuff like that. And more recently, like as we started our Kickstarter for Tsundere Idol, like I've been trying to gather a following on Twitter and Discord and the social medias, as it were.
Wearing many hats, basically.
Yeah, we're still pretty small, so it's like I feel bad sometimes reading all the things where it's like, oh, you guys should make this and that for your Kickstarter goals. I'm just like, I don't think either of us know how to do that.
Yeah. See,
So
the problem with that is that if
not.
we made it a goal, someone would have to actually do it, and we can't.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I suppose the question is, how many people currently work at Cherry Kiss?
There are 3 of us. So
Wow.
there's the founder, myself, and we have a man on the ground in Japan.
That is less people than I was expecting.
Oh yeah, I wasn't exaggerating when I said we were small.
No, but it's like even by visual novel standards, let's say, that's small. I mean,
I think it's because we have the luxury of just like localizing, like like Wild Romance, all the assets already exist, all the sounds, all the voices, all the art, yada yada. So really, it's just like I have enough artistic chops, I think, to tweak stuff or make whatever if we really need it, like the UI. And obviously, well, I don't want to say obviously, not too presumptuous now, but I think I've got the technical know-how to produce some pretty good stuff.
well, I mean, is the Wild Romance not? I hesitate to use the word series because okay. What is the difference between the original Wild Romance and Mofu Mofu edition?
Okay, so before Cherry Kiss acquired the rights, the original Wild Romance, the one that's just called Wild Romance on Steam, that was put out just to be a family-friendly version. Like the goal of that game, like a little experiment from Norn, was like, we're gonna try to put out a digital game on Steam in the West. And so they had no plans to ever, introduce an 18 plus patch. It was just like, we're gonna get it translated this much, this stuff that we've deemed acceptable, and we're gonna put it out there. And so, my boss and I were like, oh well, like there's obviously people who want the full game, because of course all the comments, all the reviews are just like, where's the full Wild Romance? When's it gonna get patched? Blah 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 blah. But so when we first started working on it, it was like, oh well, we can't just patch it because it's the engine it's built on doesn't really support, just installing a file that you can download off the internet.
Right.
So we had to port it to a
Remaking
new
the
engine.
entire game, go.
Oh yeah, so that's what we did. So we remade it in the new engine so that we could patch it, and of course, like, then the new problem was, oh, we can't just replace it with this new executable, this new architecture and stuff like that. So we released Mofu Mofu Edition as this, just like, oh, it's improved, but it's also like a key addition to it was patchable now, so you could patch in the adult images and stuff like that. So that's like, it was the hard sell on Steam, because just as we were coming out with Mofu Mofu, that they changed the rules a little bit, being like, you cannot talk about the adult patch anymore on Steam. So we had to kind of sell it on like, oh, we've improved the game, but everywhere else we're just like, it could be patched. There's adult stuff. It's got patches, but we can't say it on Steam. So that's the
And let me
challenge of-
direct you over to this billboard over to the left.
exactly.
R18
It's like, hey, go to our
patch.
website or our Twitter for more information. It's just like, oh, please, somebody find out and post on the Steam forums that there's a patch. And luckily, someone did straight away, so that kind of got that ball rolling.
It's like, as it turns out, there's a lot of workarounds because the whole patching issue isn't just a recent thing. Like, granted, the additional restriction was you can't talk about it, but like,
Yeah. When we first started development, there was we were looking at some of the games by Darker Studios, I think they're called, and like they would have, like, the developers would pin a post that they wrote in the forums being like, here's the 18 plus patch, bloody blood. I'm just like, oh, we can do this, and of course, rules change.
Of course, like, bad timing. But not sure if there's ever going to be a solution to that particular dilemma.
Yeah.
It's like Valve has always been skittish about when it comes to adult content in visual novels.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure makes sense. It opens you up to all kinds of complaints, and
Yeah,
so
there'd
they
be
need,
like
they,
the
they
the
need
families
deniability.
who'd be like, oh, my 12-year-old little Jimmy said he was 18, but then clicked onto this and saw breasts. Oh, woe is me.
That's your son's fault for basically, lying, committing fraud.
I mean, yeah, the other visual novel producers that we know have been, constantly pushing and pulling it with this whole dilemma. It's like, with varying degrees of success.
Yeah, I think it's great though. Like again, once the fans know that there's a patch out there, somebody's
Mhm.
gonna go to the Steam forums straight away. And luckily, like I don't know, like again, like I don't know if Valve will ever make us like enforce the Steam forums or like regulate them or whatever like that. But I highly doubt it. So as long as the fans doing it, I think we're in the clear.
Probably. It's like it's not that Valve closely monitors the Steam forums.
Mm.
I'm like, that has its good and bad points.
Yeah.
Definitely good and bad points. But it's also there's also a gray market around these patches. Like one visual novel we covered actually had a patch that not only you had to buy it. You basically had to pay $5 to buy it. So not everyone is as magnanimous as like you guys with the patching.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things I always think is just like, especially with like a patch, like it's not a very sophisticated file. So if whatever DRM I could try to make, someone 10 times smarter than me would just be able to crack immediately. And then we'd have the bad rep of being like, these Cherry Kiss guys tried to paywall our porn. I'm just like, oh, just take it, please.
That sounds like the internet.
Yeah, like I don't think anyone here is thinking that's beyond the realm of reason.
Well, and a lot of visual novels are built in like RenPy, which is like apparently pretty freaking easy to edit script files and stuff on. So.
Oh yeah.
And anyway, so how long has Cherry Kiss Games been a thing?
So it must have been. I think it was June of last year. The founder was flying around Japan, wining and dining, or sake and sushiing, whatever you want to call it. The big boys to get the contracts in order so that we could like it was handed over on Steam. It's now published by us, and just basically it was even hard just convincing them to be like, there is a market for the adult content, and then like I think I'm pretty sure Wild Romance is like Norn's first foray into localization, and so to what I know, they're pretty skittish about just like, are you sure we can put like this out? Like, will it get back to Japan and like they'll get in trouble because like the ratings are really strict? So it's like, this slightly
Japan
different version is out, and you didn't submit this to the government to get rated. Now you're in trouble, and it's just like, ugh. So.
Yeah, Japan has the whole strict censorship laws thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why mosaics exist.
Yes, sir, they do.
Like, and I suppose another question I have is, what made the founder want to do visual novel localizations?
I think, well, that's not for me to say, but I imagine it would be just like watching the outcry from Wild Romance, just being like, oh, he has some ties to these companies, and was like, why don't you guys just make it? And they're like, no, we will never do that. And he's just like, I'll do it. Bam. So here we are.
Interesting. It's certainly interesting to get a entry level perspective on this particular subgenre. Like I said, we know other people who localize the visual novels, but they've been doing it for quite a while.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I listened to the episode where you guys had the I forgot his name now, but I believe it was the head, someone in charge, like someone pretty high up in Manga Gamer, and I'm like,
yeah, John.
They want me on next week. Eeks.
Well, it's like, yeah, we have John on like every 2 months. In fact, he's coming back next season. But I mean, Manga Gamer's always working on something. But it's also like one of the reasons I wanted you on is because you are new to the game. And that's not a perspective we've had on the program thus far until now. So it's interesting to contrast. We've also had Sekai Project, who's another big one in the field. Anyway, getting back to Wild Romance. So for the uninitiated, what is this product? Exactly.
So Wild Romance would be, I've been told many terms of what it is classified as. So we've got Nukige, eroge, visual novels, what have you. But I think people lean towards Nukige just because that is the one where it's just like mostly focused on like sex.
Uh-huh.
But I think of all of Norn's games though, this is the one they, like I said, they specifically made Wild Romance to have a longer family-friendly version of the story. So I almost want to call it a full-fledged visual novel. There's like one, or I think there's one choice towards the end, but meh. And so it's the story of the main character who you play as, and you go back to your childhood, like where you grew up, your childhood town. And of course, you know, all your now very attractive childhood friends have matured, are all above 18. I'll have you know, just throwing that out there. And so you get to know them, and you kind of reveal their big secret is that they're yokai monster girls with all the little animal parts. And you just go on like this little adventure, you know, trying to solve problems around town. And you're not like Cosmo is not meant to ever discover that they were yokai. So of course that got him in a little stick of trouble with I believe they call it like in Japanese. I think his name was the Earth God. So we localized that to just God, or maybe we even called him Earth God. But the guy who's in charge of like the yokai in the area kind of puts his foot down, being like, listen, unless you can prove that you're of pure heart, let's say, he was going to turn you back. He's going to turn you into a frog. So you do your good deeds around town, curry some favor, and hopefully have some sexy times along the way.
Depending on which version you play, I suppose.
Oh yes, depending on which version you have, or if you have the patch or not.
Yeah. I suppose we should delineate how family-friendly the regular version is. Like, you know, what is it in terms of objectionable contents that people might find still there?
So, I mean, obviously I think the people who are playing it won't find it objectionable, but the risk A stuff would be the areas like maybe right before a sex scene, like an H scene. There'd be like just making out, kind of general foreplay. So that's still in there, just because the background is kind of like what we're seeing now on screen. It'd be the character sprite in the background that's just like maybe in Cosmo's room or out by the river or whatever, wherever they would be. But when they really start, when we made the cuts basically to jump around the sex scenes, that we said, or well I said I guess, whenever it changes the background to be the actual sex scene CG, like the full on no sprites. This is just like you see, you know, breasts, whatever. The mosaics are out there.
Right.
That's when we make the cuts, and it's like unless you have the patch installed, it shouldn't go into that loop where it has the scene. It'll just skip it and move on. So that's the big difference, yeah. But like so, some of the adult content is like still, you know, heavy quotation marks here, still in there, where it's like, we might come up onto a scene where Kazuma and Sumire are like making out, but I think that's about as raunchy as it gets without the patch.
Makes sense. Now, there isn't anything important in the sex scenes, like, you know, character developments or anything of that nature, is there?
No, there's like the plot never, like you don't make any critical decisions that like change the plot, or it's like nothing's revealed that like, oh, by the way, your evil twin brother, blah. Like nothing crazy like that happens. It's the sex scenes are completely dedicated to just sex.
Right. I can think of a couple visual novels where that was decidedly not the case.
Mm.
You know, it's like the sex scenes were kind of really important, but that's a story for another day.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the most you get. Sorry to cut you off. Like the most you get is like you kind of just get more of the character's personality. Like I to this day it kind of makes me giggle whenever I see on Twitter someone posting like, this is the least hot thing I've ever seen, quoting like Nazuna's dialogue where it's just like, oh yo dude, that's like really hot. I'm just like, oh, but it's perfect.
Yeah. I suppose on the flip side of things, what kind of sex is featured in this game?
So obviously you have your good old harem ending. So there's quite a bit of I guess 5 ways. So there's 5 ways, 3 ways, I think that's it. I think it's only 5 and 3 ways. Then there's just kind of just regular, I would call it vanilla sex. Like maybe some of it's like a bit like kinkier during the festival because it's like it could almost be described as, you know, public sex or outdoor sex or what have you.
Right.
But it's never like, it's never made a big deal that like, ooh, people can see us. Bleh. So
Right.
most of it is just kind of like the loving, like romantic, like, oh, you know, all the girls are like fawned over you for so long, and now finally all these feelings are coming out. So it's like, it's not a lot of just like, let's fuck.
Yeah, that sounds like some typical anime tropes deal. Like, it's far cry from the last thing we covered. Like, but once again, that's beyond the scope here.
Yeah.
Outside of editing, what else did you have to do to localize Wild Romance?
So when you say editing, what do you mean exactly? Just so I don't cover it.
Like translating, changing UI, you know, it's like that kind of like changing graphics, you know.
Oh, okay. So we didn't actually. Sorry, I guess we kind of changed the graphics where it's like we made it 16:9. But other than that, like, you know, I didn't take anything out or put anything in. Like the graphics are all exactly what I got from Japan. And then obviously some parts of the text where it's like we had to change some of Aoi's dialogue where it's just like I'm underage. It's like, okay, we definitely can't say that. So that had
Yeah.
we just changed it to like, you know, just to we didn't. I think we captured like her character, but we didn't want to change it to be like just a very blatant like I am 18. Do not worry.
Jedi hand wave. Jedi hand
Exactly.
wave.
These are not the troubles you're looking for.
Yeah. All characters are over 19 years of age. That's learning I've seen for decades.
Yep. And yeah, I mean, I again like, I'm sure like it would be huge blowback to like change stuff. So why would I want to, you know, go in there and rewrite the story and have someone inevitably call me out on it and again burn a lot of bridges? So it's as unchanged, I think, as we could make it.
Well, it's like people don't seem to realize like the under 18 thing, like especially in Europe, you can get heavy fines for that crap.
Canada too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, now you mentioned that you release your games also on mobile devices, correct?
Yes, we try to, but it's been a struggle.
I imagine they're not very fond of the R18 patch on mobile.
So actually, on Amazon, where we're selling Wild Romance Mofu Edition, you don't need to patch it.
Oh my.
Oh yeah. So I mean, again, Amazon was we had adult images in like the screenshots, so we got hit by the adult takedown. So lesson learned there. And then we took them out pretty quickly and re-uploaded it, and then we had like just an ongoing saga of problems where it's just like, just even like the fact that nobody knows it's out on mobile is just exactly why, because it's like you couldn't search for it on the site, it wouldn't come up for whatever reason. I was like, did we get hit by the strike and we resolved it, but now it's like they're like blacklisting this app from the search. So we re-uploaded it recently. I think it might have been last week, or I'll have to check the whatever the last tweet was where I said it came out. But yeah, the full Mofu edition, all 18 stuff included, is up on Amazon.
Right.
And yeah, we're looking for like alternatives for the future, just because like I found the platform to be pretty difficult to just, you know, deal with.
I have a hard time seeing like Apple or Google being more magnanimous in this area.
Oh yeah, we didn't even try Google Play. It was just like let's just forget about it. We gotta go find something else. So some of our followers in our Discord have actually recommended Mikandi. I think they're somehow associated with that Newton and the Apple Tree visual novel that got kickstarted a while ago. But yeah, so that's been something that we're trying to look into, because they deal in, you know, 18 plus apps, APK files, what have you.
Now, do you sell like a non-Steam edition of Wild Romance, like on your own website, a direct sales.
Not on our own website. Like we have a direct download on Nutaku. On the Nutaku store, there's Wild Romance like bundled, like no patch required. It has all the 18 stuff in it. We're looking into like, again, we've been suggested we look into Faku and Manga Gamer and stuff like that. And so when we first like came close to releasing Wild Romance, like I was sending a lot of emails to just like anyone that I thought was kind of important, just being like, "Hello, we're Cherry Kiss Games. Will you sell Wild Romance?" So we're hopefully nearing some agreements eventually, possibly maybe soon, I think.
Well, cross your fingers.
Oh yeah. But yeah, hopefully before the current Kickstarter for Thunder Idol ends, we'll be on more stores, so then we can give away direct download keys instead of just selling them, or instead of distributing it through Steam.
Indeed. Now, I suppose that's as good a segue as any to talk about the Sundari Idol.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So some things can be gleaned from the name.
Yeah.
How accurate is the title? I suppose is the question I have.
So one would say it is very literal. So the character, so Rui is the name of the idol, the main heroine in the game, and so it starts off where I think you can see in the demo, the introduction, where she's like this kind of cool, collected, like, she's a pop star, she's a rock star. So she's kind of like, aloof, cold, and an incident, I'll say, happens that reveals her more dare side.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that kind of leads into the immediate 18 content, where it's just like, become my S&M master and let's get into all kinds of kinky nonsense.
Oh my.
Indeed.
Right, and so how did you guys come across this product?
So a while ago, I think it might have been before the launch of Wild Romance, so maybe in November, December of last year. We have permission to localize whichever game we have in the Norn Mill catalog. So we made a tweet that was just like, hey, tell us your favorite Norn or Mill games. And so of course, like, furiously compiling things to an Excel spreadsheet. And then so one fan actually approached us and he was like, hey, I've actually translated. So what you see in the demo is what he translated and gave to us, was like, hey, if you'd be interested in pursuing this, I've already done the translation this much. You guys can see if it's any good or not. And so we read it and we're like, this is really, like, this is good. And so then we decided, like, well, we want to pay him, because it would be unfair to be like, oh yeah, thanks for your translations, we're gonna go sell this now, bye. So we decided, like, let's try a Kickstarter, and we'll see if we can raise some funds for the translation effort. And so that's kind of how this all came about, where, I guess he must have just seen like our tweet that went out, and was just, oh, like, let's hit these guys up with, like, what he's translated, and it was good, and we're just like, yeah, let's move forward with this. So that's the plan.
Right, and so when did the Kickstarter campaign start?
The 22nd of January, so 2 days ago.
2 days ago. And let's see, looking at the stats at time of recording, 1,177 pledged out of 8,058, 76 backers, and 35 days to go.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose that's not a bad start.
Yeah.
Maybe not an especially impressive start, but I'll be honest, I'm not exactly sure how the Kickstarter metrics work out.
Yeah, we've gotten the emails from Kickstarter being like, oh, you're off to a great start, guys. And we're just like, okay, we've never done a Kickstarter before. I'll believe it. But, I mean, in my head, it's just been like, if we can get $500 a day for the next 20 days, we'll be finished with, like, a dozen days to spare. So then who knows what happened. And so far we've kept to it. We've gotten we've hit all our goals. We've almost hit today's 1,500. Right. So if y'all haven't backed the Kickstarter, head on over and check it out.
Indeed. I think I provided a link in the chat thingy. Anyway, I suppose the pertinent question is the the number goal here the stated goal? Because there have been a lot of Kickstarters out there where it's like the actual goal wasn't kind of the goal, if that makes any sense. Like, that is to say, if you hit your Kickstarter goal, you will be able to fund this fully.
Oh yeah. So again, like there's so few of us at Cherry Kiss where it's just like the main aim of the Kickstarter was let's pay for translation. Let's get the translation cost done. And then so the founder, I believe, is going without pay until we get the Kickstarter done. But I Cherry Dev still needs to pay his rent. So the development promotion, that's for me and the guy in Japan, just so we can kind of stay afloat on our own.
And what would the 8,000 pay for exactly?
So sorry, I'm used to dealing with it in Canadian dollars. We've got in 10,000 Canadian.
Yeah, it's like sorry,
It's all right. Sorry.
Like, yeah, it's doing USD for me.
Okay, well that's great to know. I was really paranoid that seeing it in Canadian dollars would scare away a lot of US backers.
They're fairly close right now, aren't they? I mean, like within 30% at least.
Yeah, like Adam was saying, I think it's 8,000 US and it's 10,000 Canadian, so that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've backed things in Swedish kroner, and that's way off.
Good lord, you're a brave man.
Well, there's a Swedish company that does a lot of role-playing game releases, like pen and paper.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, exactly what are you looking to cover with your Kickstarter budget here?
Yeah. So, sorry, I got distracted. So, ideally, the majority would go to. We've agreed with the translator. It's like this is how much. The amount of Japanese characters you're translating. This is what we're agreeing and saying. Like that's how much that is worth. Like that work that you put in. Based on X number of characters, get this much per character. Blah blah blah. And then the rest, like I said, was going to just making sure that the development team, like me and our guy in Japan, just can, stay housed and eating. And then that last little chunk is just the bank fees. Kickstarter takes a little chunk too. So
right. Yeah, that sounds.
Ideally, it's almost like the month where the Kickstarter runs. The translator, that'll be his commission, and then the rest would go just like making sure that the team itself is funded to keep working on Cinder Idol and hopefully future projects once it succeeds.
It all sounds very reasonable, which is not too surprising considering there's not a lot of work to be done here, strictly speaking. Like it's one of those, the game's already done, you just need to translate it.
Exactly.
As opposed to, say, the Supihara series. But anyway, so what do you have any stretch goals in mind?
So we were teasing the idea, internally, we were thinking if we do an extra language, we have. So here's a exclusive for you guys. We have a Spanish release of Wild Romance coming out soon. Hopefully, maybe the next 2 or 3 weeks, maybe. And so of course we're thinking we know these Spanish guys then, so let's see if we can get a stretch goal for a Spanish translation. But personally, I kind of thought that if a second language is a stretch goal and we don't make it, then the Spanish guy who backed us just to get the Spanish version, does he get kind of cheated out of his backing? Because it's like, hey, I only really wanted that stretch goal and we didn't get it, so bummer. And another language I think is really important, especially if I imagine if it was the other way around and the stretch goal is English and we're going to do it in Spanish, and all these American guys, Canadian guys, European guys back it and we don't get any English, it's like, well, I feel like I wasted my money. So we held off on that. Ideally, I'd like to be able to say, let's fund an extra language with the profits we make from selling the game. Yeah. But I mean, that's again, that's just me. And a lot of a lot of things. It's like we looked at other Kickstarters, and it's like, oh, we'll make body pillowcases, wall hangings, stickers, pins, like merchandise, and it's just like we're three guys, and we don't have the industry, like we don't have some big company behind us being like, hey, don't worry, we'll take care of shipping all this stuff to God knows where in the world, or making T-shirts or printing this and that and the other. Like, for now, like our physical backing reward is the poster, which we have signed by Hazuki Ayase, the illustrator of the game. And that's already like, okay, we need to limit this to this many so that we can guaranteed print this amount for this little, so it won't, like, we don't drain the Kickstarter trying to pay for mailing tubes of paper to people and stuff like that.
Oh God, physical rewards.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
For a while, it was just going to be, we'll provide you a very high res digital image of the poster for you to print on your own. And I was like, let's not charge someone 100 Canadian dollars and then make them go pay for printing and possibly framing something.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've got a physical poster. So we're on our way.
like a physical poster shouldn't be too problematic. Like, I mean,
that's what we're hoping for too.
It's like I hesitate to say that. Really, when it comes to Kickstarter stuff, one of our colleagues who's not here this week would be better equipped to talk about it, since he's actually run Kickstarters and Indiegogo campaigns. But yeah, it's like, just in general, like physical rewards can be a huge drain, especially if you're doing international shipping.
Yeah, like again, if we were, Cherry Kiss, multinational, multi-billion-dollar company, I'd be like, yeah, get the whatever, get the interns to do it. But like I said, there's only so much we can do.
Someone in
Let's
the
get
other
the
room.
game done.
We have interns?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm like, indeed. So, what are your reward tiers?
So we have just like the lowest where it's just like, thanks. I think it's $5 Canadian, so you get your name in the credits. And then we have it's let me make sure I got my facts right. So yeah, sorry, it's $6 Canadian. That's get your name in the credits. Then we have the 10 Canadian, which is like a slight discount, like from what we're gonna end up selling the game on Steam for. So it's like where that was our incentive to like, hey, if you fund the Kickstarter, you get a cheaper pre-order basically. And then, assuming that reward tier runs out, then there's a regular day one download for the full 12 Canadian dollars. Then originally we had like a kind of a bundle where it's like, oh, if you pledge 20 Canadian dollars, 19 now, we were going to provide a PC direct download and an Android download. But again, like, we're kind of limited by, we don't have the Amazon store that we're selling on now. There's no way for us to give someone like a key, like a Steam key, for example. They don't support that for some whatever reason. I'll try not to sound too bitter.
I think Google Play does, but
yeah, Google Play does, but we kind of can't sell on Google Play, so
yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, if before the end of the Kickstarter we find a way to be able to give people Android keys, I'm sure expect to see more tiers appear that are more Android focused. So we repurposed that tier to be, oh, you just get 2 Steam keys, so you can give it to a friend who maybe wouldn't buy this stuff himself, or I'm sure people will buy it as a joke to give one of their buddies for April Fools. And then we have a $50 tier, Canadian, of course, and that is, so this was an interesting negotiation. We were asking Norn for like any concept art they had, and so we have all like the initial sketches of Rui, like all her designs, like some outfits that she doesn't even wear in the game have been concepted. We have some concept art of like some of the basic backgrounds, and then all of the adult scenes or custom CG scenes that are in the game. We have all the concept, like line art, coloring for that. So we're going to compile that into like an art book of sorts and distribute that for $50 to people who back that much, and of course 2 Steam keys. And then, like I was saying earlier, we have the physical poster signed by Hazuki Ayase, and so yeah, that will be once the game is done and the Kickstarter succeeded, we'll we'll wrap them in their tubes and send them on their way. And then our final tier is at the beginning of the game. I think he's in the demo. There's a character just called Male Student who tries to hit on Rui in the classroom and just gets rejected, which leads to which leads to the incident that involves Rui becoming your S&M pet. And so my boss and I were like, we need to think of a name for this guy. Like, he's too integral to just be Male Student.
So it's like you can be male student.
Well, so we want to let one person who backs at that tier name him whatever they want within reason.
And how much is that going for?
That is our big whammy $800 Canadian tier.
Yeah, usually make your mark on the game tiers are fairly high up there.
So my name's at Bodie McBoatface.
So I made a tweet about this, and I was like, please, let's not have a Bodie McBoatface incident. Let's avoid that.
Or Harambe.
Hentai face.
At
Maybe
least make it ship McBoatface.
Yeah, it's like, maybe you should just be upfront with like no memes or something like that.
I don't think we say no memes. I believe we say we'll take final editorial rights if we do get like butt face dick butt poop salad. It's like let's think of something better than that.
There are perfectly legitimate meme names. I just can't think of any.
I'm sure they exist somewhere.
Grape Coon.
Oh, rest in peace, man.
That one might go through if it happens.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Just as long as you're not getting like peanut butter jelly time.
Yeah. I think the exact discussion the founder and I had was, if it will ruin the game for someone else who doesn't like give a shit about this stupid joke, we probably won't allow it.
That sounds like a good rule of thumb for like life.
Exactly, right? You know, if it'll fuck up someone else's day, maybe let's not do that.
That depends on who's getting their day crashed. More on that later. It's.
Are you implying that some people deserve to have their day ruined?
Ooh,
like the people complaining about the Iconoclast, hell yeah. Like, they deserve to have their week, year, and life ruined. But that's, once again, that's a rant for another day. Anyway, so are there any plans if this Kickstarter doesn't take hold?
Right now the plan is believe, and believe we shall. But yeah, I mean, right now, like, I'm confident it'll work out. Like, we've got good trajectory. We've built up some good momentum so far with like the rate we're giving backers. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's almost, I want to say it's too early to tell, but we'll find a way. That's all I'm going to say. We'll find a way.
I'm like, well, I suppose Indiegogo's available. Like, that one has what do they call it? Like, if you don't reach your funding goal, you can still get the money you raised.
Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the concerns, again, like trying to explain this to like the head of the company in Japan, where it's like, okay, so we're gonna get people to give us money, and if we don't hit it, we get nothing. And it's just like, don't do it. It's like, well, it's kind of what people do.
Something Japanese corporate logic something.
Like, I think Kickstarter's a thing in Japan now. Like, and
yeah, but that doesn't mean it's as popular.
Yeah.
True.
Again, it's mostly for smaller things.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, like, yeah, crowdfunding isn't an alien concept. It's just not a big concept over there. So,
or it's just one of those things where it's like, well, if you can't afford it, then the simple answer is do not do it. And it's just like, well.
Anyway, so I'll see if my colleagues here have any final questions for you at this stage.
Lay them on me.
I have one actually about Wild Romance. If you have the patch installed, can you turn it off, or do you have to like go in and delete it?
No. If you install the patch, like it just does a simple like a logic check where it's like the patch is installed, you're good to go. But as soon as you like you said, as soon as you delete the patch from like, or if you move it out of the folder, that check will just like disable and be like, oh, no more patch. So
it's like a one file patch, right?
Yeah.
It's not like one of those ones where it's like a small folder that replaces a bunch
Oh
of
yeah,
other
no,
stuff.
you don't need to like install like a you don't need to run a wizard to put it in the right place. It's as simple as putting a file in, taking the file out.
So just delete patch.apk or whatever the file is. I
Yeah,
think that's
I mean
actually
I'd
literally
prefer
what it
I'd
is.
prefer moving it just because if you delete
Yeah.
it. But yeah, so I mean again it's one of those things where I don't think that would be a feature request from somebody, but maybe if we get like more people like yourself who'd be like I want to turn the patch on and off if I have it, so I'm sure it wouldn't be that hard to say let's make a little check on a menu that's just like show me the adult stuff.
Right.
Yeah, I don't have any immediate questions, but it's been nice hearing you talk about the development. It's always an interesting thing to hear about.
Well, thank you. It's nice to talk about it to
I'm
someone
looking
that isn't
forward to
just
actually
my boss.
trying out the game.
No problem, no problem. Right, so I think that'll about wrap things up at this stage. Hopefully we'll have you back on the program when, should Tsundere Idol be funded and, it gets development and all that stuff.
Exactly. I'll be happy to return.
We'll be in touch. Anyway, the current game that's out, Wild Romance Mofu Mofu Edition. One question about the price. Is it the same price on Android as it is on the Steam store?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So Wild Romance Mofu Mofu Edition is available on Steam and Android. You might have to do a bit of digging for the Android version. It's available for $14.99. We'll be talking more about it in our review coming this Sunday. And Petty Fan, play us to the next section. All right. Taking a break from current events this week. Next week we'll probably be talking about that. It's like Microsoft announced this Game Pass thing, and it's a thing that needs to be talked about, but I don't think you guys are versed enough in what it is to have a discussion at this point. This is what production meetings are for.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And, sometimes we can do off the cuff like the Labo stuff. Other times, research is needed. Anyway, this week we are talking about the Mario Tennis series. In due to a large part because a new Mario Tennis game got recently announced, Mario Tennis Aces. And, so Mario Tennis is, I suppose, in the overall umbrella, part of the Mario Sports series.
Which is probably tangentially related to the Mario and Sonic thing, but that's not the important part.
Yeah, I suppose you could file that under Mario Sports, but it's like that's a crossover thing as well. When you're talking about Mario Sports, there's a few different branches of this. Probably the main branches are Mario Tennis and Mario Golf. And then you go down the sports, there are Mario Baseball, there's Mario Basketball, there's Mario Soccer, and like Mario Sports mixes now. But most of those sub-series only have at most like 2 releases, whereas the Mario Tennis and Mario Golf, like Mario Tennis has the most releases, like about 10. Like, I suppose some of that is depending on how you're counting. Ditto the Mario Golf series, especially since, in specifically to Mario Tennis, its legacy does not begin on the N64 like a lot of people might think. It actually begins on Nintendo's one of their more obscure systems, the Virtual Boy. Mario Tennis was the packing game for the Virtual Boy.
Really, that was the first one? Yeah, I guess it must have been, because that came out like during the SNES, didn't it?
Yes, like it is the first Mario Tennis. Now, I seen Wikipedia classify the NES Tennis series as Mario Sports. Technically, no. Like, Mario does a cameo in that, but he's the referee. When we're talking Mario Sports, we're not talking about him cameoing as the referee. He did that in Not just there, but Punch Out. Like nobody thinks Punch Out is a Mario game.
Although I think a lot of the mechanics in Mario Tennis do sort of follow on from the NES Tennis.
Well, there is a certain logic to that because it's still a tennis game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in spite of whatever Nintendo does to Marioize the game, it's at its base core going to still be a tennis game. And indeed, tennis is one of the, if not the oldest genre in video gaming. It depends on how you want to see, like Pong. Pong is a variant of table tennis, which is a variant of tennis.
Right.
It's like not surprising tennis games have existed since the primordia of video gaming. But when we're talking about Mario Tennis, we're talking about Mario characters playing the actual tennis. And that being said, the original Virtual Boy Mario Tennis, that was done to sell, the world on the, quote unquote virtual reality capabilities of the Virtual Boy, even though what they were actually doing is really more closer to what the 3DS does. Like,
yeah, it's 3D gameplay, and that has pretty limited applications for that. But tennis is a pretty good way to show it off because you have the ball going specifically from the background to the foreground all the time.
Right. That's why it was picked. Like, I've actually played quite a number of Virtual Boy games. My brother had one back in the day. Like, it was pretty fun. I'm like, it's just, it was on an obscure-ass system. Now, when we talk about Mario Tennis, and indeed, Mario Golf, really, like, in the popular consciousness, the legacy begins with Camelot. That is to say, Camelot software planning. Like, now, if you're unfamiliar with...
I thought it was literal King Arthur.
Like...
Sorry.
Anyway, Camelot software planning has a very interesting legacy to it, which will be the subject of another topic of discussion. But in terms of sports, they actually got into the game with a series called Hot Shots Golf. They actually developed the first game in that series, maybe the second one, I can't remember offhand. But then Nintendo quickly snatched them up to make Mario Golf. And then in the year 2000, they made Mario Tennis. 2 Mario Tennis games. And the Nintendo 64 versions of Mario Tennis and Mario Golf, and subsequently the Game Boy Color versions of those games, actually share a lot of DNA with each other. Obviously not in terms of sports, because they are different sports. Very different sports.
Mm-hmm.
It's more in the terms of structure. So one of the things that Camelot and Nintendo did was they utilized this thing called a transfer pack. If you know what this is, congratulations on owning Pokemon Stadium. Seriously, that's the thing that it came with, and I think
and I think they did sell them separately, but like not as much.
Yeah, and it was mainly used so you could get your Pokemon from your Game Boy to your N64, and see them in 3D. That was actually a big selling point back in the day. So I'm not sure if it was Camelot or if it was Nintendo who had the idea, but you could use the transfer pack to transfer characters from one place to another.
Yeah, so you could play as your own character from the Game Boy Advance games in the N64 games, which is your own character probably requires a little bit of explanation.
Mm-hmm. So another thing that Camelot did with both the Game Boy Color release of Mario Golf and Mario Tennis was basically set them up as RPGs. Like, I think Ant Dude covered like the Mario Tennis RPG aspect in one of his videos. But yeah, it's like they're a lot less mascot heavy than the N64 versions. Like, you don't really play as the Nintendo characters until much later on in the game. Like, and this isn't the only time they do this. Like the Game Boy Advance series does this as well. The point is, it plays out kind of like, I want to say, Prince of Tennis, only not quite as stupid.
Aw, we don't get to make the dinosaurs go extinct?
No, you don't. I mean, it's still, it's actually like the Game Boy versions are actually pretty down to earth, if I'm being honest, compared to their console incarnations. I'm speaking both on the Game Boy Color and Advanced versions, because on the N64 side, yeah, it's very, very Mario. You play as Mario, in Mario themed arenas and so on and so forth, and arguably the series reached its apex with Mario Power Tennis, which I want to say, like, I'm not sure if it was the N64 or the GameCube release where they added the powers. It would probably be Power Tennis. It's right there in the name, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's GameCube, although I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, well, it's GameCube and Wii. Yeah, Mario Power Tennis. Yeah, the power is gimmicks. I suppose I should call it what it is. Like, Mario Power Tennis really gimmicks Mario in Mario stuff, like power shots. All the characters have distinct power shots, and you have really out there arenas like Bowser's Castle or Luigi's Mansion, where you have environmental effects that will interfere with gameplay. That kind of deal. Whereas, yeah, the portable versions kept things a bit more grounded, so to speak. In fact, you might forget that you're actually playing a Mario Tennis game until like one of the characters shows up. And going with the whole RPG thing, you can level up in the portable versions. And I think I'm trying to think. I think there were experience reasons to connect your characters from like the Game Boy Advance Color to N64. Like they use the transfer gimmick in both the Color and Advanced versions.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit more egregious in the Advanced. I do know that because you needed to use the transfer functionality in order to unlock some characters.
Which is notable because the Game Boy Advance version is now available on the 3DS eShop and doesn't have that.
Yeah, it's like that's definitely one of the biggest downsides. Mario Tennis for the N64 and Game Boy Color are available on their respective virtual consoles, Wii U and 3DS. But there's no way to hook those up, and I'm not sure if like the Game Boy Advance version of Mario Tennis ever appeared on the Wii U Virtual Console, but like the transfer functionality wouldn't have been there anyway. Like that's a real problem with Nintendo's backwards compatibility initiatives at the moment, excluding Super Mario Brothers 3 for the Game Boy Advance, which actually has all the e-reader card content
and some extra, I think.
Like, well, yeah, it's all the Japanese stuff. We didn't get the full e-reader content over here.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, then we hit the Wii era, which is kind of strange. It's kind of strange because there's no new and there's no proper Wii Mario Tennis game or Mario Golf game for that matter.
Oddly
Yes.
surprising considering it's the Wii.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
Wii
like,
Sports was all the sports.
you know, we did get a port of Mario Power Tennis, and I don't even know if that was handled by Camelot Software Planning. Like, it might have said like Camelot as the developer, but okay. So here's one of those industry secrets: a lot of ports are handled by ghost developers.
Mm-hmm.
If you've ever heard the name Tosei, you know, they've done a shit ton of games, including ports. It's just you will never hear, unless like specifically announced, you will never hear their name attached to something.
Yeah, you might see them in the credits, but you won't hear their name, out in public.
Yeah, it's like not even in the credits. Like they, you know, that's their business model. They'll do shit without taking any credits. You know, and they've been doing this for decades. And there are other developers like WoW Entertainment, um, uh, and so on and so forth. The point is, we don't know why there wasn't a proper Wii title. I'm like, you know, if there was something going on between Camelot and Nintendo at the time, or if it's because they wanted to go it alone, so to speak. Because there's also no DS incarnations of these two franchises, and Camelot is, you know, they're kind of the developer on these branches currently. Like they did do a Wii golf game, but it's called We Love Golf and was published by Capcom. It was their attempt to, you know, do the golf thing on their own, and I guess it didn't go anywhere because Mario Tennis returned along with Mario Golf for the 3DS. Unfortunately, part of the reason why I wanted to talk about the RPG aspects so much is that has gotten lost in the most recent iterations of this franchise. Mario Golf for the 3 and Mario Tennis for the 3DS didn't have them. Say nothing about the Wii U version, but we'll get to that in a minute. Now, yeah, Mario Tennis Open, that's the 3DS one. Yeah, so the big selling point here was, you know, it's a game of Mario Tennis, but the big one here was it's the first Mario Tennis game with online play. You know,
Which is a varying degree of good idea considering Nintendo's, you know, history with online play.
mm-hmm. And you know, outside of that, it seems to be a fairly typical Mario Tennis game. You know, I suppose the other big selling point is you could have your Mii as the character. You know, Mii integration. I'm not sure how much of a selling point that really was by 2012.
I always enjoyed it, at least.
Like, it's a nice feature, but like, and granted, it was fairly new for the 3DS at the time, but it's like, I'm not sure how much that hinged. You know, and as far as Mario Tennis Ultra Smash goes, so this isn't a terrible game, strictly speaking, as it does the very base functionality of providing a game of tennis.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
That's about it, though.
yeah, that's literally.
But then again,
about
you
it.
can also play Wii Sports.
Yeah, well, yeah, like the big selling point here was the Mega Mushrooms.
Which is, hey, it's a power-up that's slightly more powerful than the other power-ups.
Yeah, like it's a very bare bones package. Like, honest God, I think the N64 version had more shit in it than this particular installment. Like Mario Tennis Ultra Smash is a really good indicator of where the Wii U was in 2015. Like, this was clearly rushed out the door because it was in development, and
And they needed anything.
Well, they not only did they need anything, they were they needed. Yeah, it's also they were moving away from the Wii U even at the stage of 2015.
Yeah, it was one of those weird points where it they couldn't wait for the Switch, and because they didn't have, they wouldn't have any games.
Right.
Yeah, it's like, it was clearly finished enough where they could call it a game and call it a day, but and it's not the only game that showcases it. Like that Amiibo, that Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival thing, also comes to mind. Instead of a proper Animal Crossing game, here's this weird spin-off with cards.
I will say that the Animal Crossing Amiibos and Amiibo cards was an idea that I expected them to do sooner, and we still only have Smash Pokemon Amiibos as another thing, which is kind of... I'm surprised there aren't 700 of those.
Like,
but yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, Mario Tennis Ultra Smash, generally considered to be just one of the worst, if not the worst, Mario sports game ever created. Not even joking about that.
And it's more worse because it lacks content, not because the gameplay was bad.
Right. It's like there is a lot of expectations for, what's in a Mario Tennis package.
Yeah, what they gave us is basically something you put on a compilation disc.
Yeah, it's like I'm not sure if the rush nature or nobody exactly knows why Mario Tennis is returning so quickly after that debacle, but here we are.
Maybe all the like theoretical idea they had is going into for what they were going to do on the Wii U is going into this one.
Yeah, it's like, well, this is a literal return to form for Mario Tennis in Aces, because while we don't know much about it, Nintendo has, if you remember the Nintendo Direct Mini, they've specifically said, they're bringing back things like the story mode. They're bringing things, they're bringing boss battles into the equation, which I think might be new.
Maybe.
I'm like, the point of order is, it's bringing back a lot of stuff that was missing beforehand. And it certainly beats having Ultra Smash ported from the Wii U.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they're using Ultra Smash's assets.
Well, yeah, but the assets aren't the problem with that game.
Maybe we haven't seen a lot of this game so far.
Well, and also that probably would explain a lot of the quick turnaround because they already have a fully functioning HD game.
It's possible. Like I said, and we're expecting Aces here sooner rather than later. Like its release is Q1 2018.
So yeah, like April, May, somewhere in there, maybe March.
Q1, that's now.
Actually,
or, soon.
Actually, I think Q1 2018 might be starting in April.
Yeah, it's...
this is based off of fiscal years.
Oh, right.
It's like a lot of fiscal years start in April. I'm not exactly sure why that is, but
we can look it up later.
I don't care to do the research for it right now.
We're not an economics podcast.
Yeah, and I don't think we're going to launch that anytime soon or ever. Anyway, Mario Tennis Aces, seems to have the potential to be the best Mario Tennis game since like the Game Boy Advance and GameCube iterations. Is the point? It's like how that pans out, we'll see in a little bit. Anyway, so any final thoughts on the Mario Tennis series?
It's a game. Well, it's several games.
I had the N64 one, and I had fun with it, even though I was really bad at it.
That's how I was. I had this N64 one as well, and I wasn't exactly great at it, but it was enjoyable.
Yeah, I don't think I ever had the N64 one, but I definitely rented it. I liked it well enough. Like,
Mhm.
I don't think I ever had power tennis. Now that I think about it. Anyway, um, yeah. So I guess I'll do it for another installment of this program. Let's see. The week ahead. Let's see. So Sunday reviews. All right. As mentioned before, we will be reviewing the Cherry Kiss visual novel Wild Romance Mofu Mofu edition. We're also going to be reviewing a game called Zen of Sudoku. If that seems a bit random, so here's the story. Our second review this week was looking to be The Quest for the Big Key, until I learned that it's not exiting early access until next week. I got the dates mixed up there.
And
I'm like,
as we've mentioned before, as a rule, we don't review early access games, even if they're coming out soon.
right. I'm like, and because like it's missing vital information, like how much it costs. I don't have that right now. It's kind of important for this because it's really, really basic and short. So how much it costs is really going to factor into the review.
Mhm.
And as far as why Zen of Sudoku, well, it's because it's a free game that I saw mentioned when I bought Astropop. So kind of at the right place at the right time. Like, I needed something that was cheap and easy, and this is both because it's a free game and it's Sudoku. Like, we'll probably cover what Sudoku is anyway, but it's like it's a Sudoku game package. It's going to be pretty easy to review.
Mhm.
So, coming up next week. Let's see. We do have a Tuesday interview, last one of the season. On January 30th, we will be having Pascal Hyman of Firefly Studios. They're the ones who make the Stronghold Crusader games. You've ever heard of that series?
I think I got one of those in a Humble Bundle.
Like, it's a series that's been kicking around for a while. Like, never super popular, but seems to be steady enough to get them through the years. Wednesday's going to be really interesting. Not sure if I've mentioned it before, but next Wednesday is gonna be a family affair, or at least looking to be a family affair. Should my cousin show up? Like, yeah, I'm interviewing my cousin next week. That's gonna be strange. But
Yeah, this is gonna be fun.
it's watch. Like,
So do we call him Mr. Adams' cousin man, or do we?
yes,
No,
yes, I'm getting to that. Jeez, patience.
No, it was a joke.
Like, anyway, my cousin, his name is Andrew. He's the co-founder of a company called Steel Wool Studios. He previously worked at a company called Pixar for about a decade, something like that. He worked on things like The Incredibles, Ratatouille, so on and so forth. And currently, Steel Wool is working on a Warhammer 40k game. The Horus Heresy, I believe.
Yeah, that's the. I mean, technically it's 30K, but it's part of the 40K brand. It's what happened. It's what happened 10,000 years ago. That's why That's why the 40K years are so terrible.
Yes, I actually know that. Like it's like I actually knew a lot of people who were into Warhammer back in high school.
You have my condolences.
Like, yeah. So I actually know what the Horus Heresy is. I'm like, short version. That's basically Judas Iscariot, but on all of the steroids.
Literally,
Yeah,
he's 12 feet tall. He can eat anything. He pees weapons grade acid.
I'm like, the Warhammer 40k universe is that level of absurd.
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever talked about it on the program, surprisingly. But
Yeah, there are actually quite a few video game adaptations, aren't there?
I
I was gonna say that's because it's a tabletop game, but it's not just.
Well, it's not just. It's because Games Workshop has gotten pretty lenient with the license. You know, short story. They used to only let THQ develop Warhammer 40K games. Their license got caught up in all the bankruptcy shenanigans. After that, they kind of decided exclusivity may not be a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anyway, so that's what's coming up next week, and until Sunday, I wish you good gaming.